number of anything of people since anything else will not equally prioritize one group over another wallet. Public policies entail trade-offs since policymakers cannot justify value conflicts in any philosophical sense. Policymakers are required to demonstrate their policies are overall advantage to society. Policymakers have an ethical duty to establish a plausible link between policy alternatives and problems they address. This requires methodology of utilitarianism. Impacts A. Sign constraint theory is useless for states and they'll inevitably violate. Sign constraint means this question minimizing the constraints we violate. B. Answers utilitizing morality system that guides action we need to know what to do when faced with imperfect circumstances. If a system is incapable of telling us what to do and violations are inevitable, makes morality useless. Only util maintains use functionality. C. Takes out mandates about calculability since there are use util which makes it possible to do so. Also means my framework is more probable because it's being reused in the real world. These constitutivism. I co-optate appeals to agency because the reason the state exists is to protect its population. The only reason documents like the Constitution exist and allow states to citizens to experience the best possible life. That means access to most well-being comes first. E. Intentions are relevant when policymakers justify their action to justify them based on consequences because the only reliable modes of knowledge we have access to. We label intentions good or bad based on the consequences that arise to util first. The standards rule consequential is one of my standard we vote to defend a rule and we weigh the values of our respective rules. That means the impacts on the right framework are high probability. Expected impacts, for example, take the following rules and should do their homework because it helps them in life. Say the rules true under every instance except on me. Expect that when you do your homework, you'll get better, smarter, and better, and understand your material. And that means, as a general rule, doing your homework is good under rule consequentialism. Even if on time you did your homework and it caused extinction, that would not deny the rule and balance is good. My framework would still say do your homework. I contend that a handgun ban would dramatically reduce death by suicide. Increase in gun prevalence causes an increase in firearm suicide. Gun control has a positive exponential relationship with suicide prevention. Briggs and Tabrick 1. If all states were to reduce the rates of ownership by 10%, which states expect the results between 1640 and 2960 for deaths by suicide each year, reduction in firearm prevalence are increasingly effective from the range of our data, and the link is causal. The presence of firearms makes it suicide more likely. There's no substitution. In fact, perceived ease of death is the reason individuals take their lives and guns aren't available. Efforts at outside intervention skyrocket. Briggs and Tabrick 2. Perceived ease of committing suicide by gunmen being more likely to happen. Suicidal thoughts are often only brief and only suicide attempts are impulsive. Absence of effective immediate means that we improve a deterrent. Interviews of people who failed at suicide indicate the methods are chosen according to ease of availability. If it's easier, means self-destruction may reduce the chance of successful outside intervention. Even if suicide reported a new gun purchase that would account for only 0.2% of firearm purchases, so it does not appear to be a potent form of reverse causality. Proof from my study controls for multiple variables, especially ones prevalent in gun control debate. Briggs and Tabrick 3. Our baseline controls include the population, poverty rate, unemployment, percentage of urban land area, and percentage of urban population, income inequality, prevalence of drug abuse, and prevalence of frequent mental distress. Demographic controls for groups at high risk of suicide, time-specific effects to control, for any time-varying factors and regional variation. Meta-analyses conclude there's a strong relation between guns and suicides. Engelmeyer et al. 1. All but 1 in 16 studies reported increased odds of death associated with firearm access. We found strong evidence for increased odds of suicide and prefer my meta-analysis. A. Analyzes the largest amount of suicide to gun studies, so more likely to be right on the issue. And B. Specifically controls for bias in articles. There's a statistical significance. Results are not due to variance in research methods. Engelmeyer 2. We stratified our results by risk of bias, found no significant difference between studies in high risk and moderate or low risk, and this is an issue about handguns in particular. Regression analyses prove that there's a strong positive relationship between increase in handguns and increase in gun suicide. Clark and Jones. Between 1959 and 1984, the suicide rate increased. There was a marked increase in the household ownership by handguns, but not shotguns or rifles. Regression analyses showed a strong relationship between handgun ownership and an increase in gun suicides. Both gun deaths are a result of death by suicide. Non-homicide means addressing death by suicide. Hours and probability and magnitude is silver. Since 1981, gun suicides have outnumbered gun homicides. Gun suicides have been on the rise in recent years. Even as gun homicides have fallen in 2010, the gun suicide rate was 6.3 per 100,000 people, compared with 3.6 per 100,000 people for gun homicides. Underview. 1. I defend the resolution on balance and willing to specify or accept reasonable negative groups on plan issues. Just ask me in CX or Prep 2. Refer arguments with shorter link chains and higher probabilities. A. Probability speed or assessing when impact is realistic when impact is incredibly low probability regarded as having zero chance of happening. The only way to solve action paralysis because any other action has potential to culminate in an existential crisis. We can't weigh between these conflicting policies, so probability first paradigm is the only way to act. Rusher. The setting of probability. Set the probability of extremely remote possibilities 0 to dismiss highly improbable possibilities at unrealistic, uncertain to dismiss extremely remote possibilities having probability of effectively 0. We find our actions are systematically certified to a degree which we are unwilling to accept in real life situations. B. All occurrences are only consequences of other actions which an infinite series of actions must be fiated the extension of link of any argument, which means it's impossible to know all parts of the situation and enough to make a probability claim ahead of the rule we currently perceive making claims of high magnitude that involve multiple steps incoherent. For example, going from A to B doesn't encounter this problem, but B to C does. C. Prior life experience means disregard enormous impacts regardless of probability. Karnofsky. If someone threatened to harm one person unless you gave them $10 is more plausible in the face of the prior life experience than if they threatened to harm 100 people. The value of action is widely outside the prior set by life experience when common sense is being violated, simply a function of enormous possible errors. 3. Self-defense justifications are wrong. Most violence inflicted by private actors with firearms is unjustifiable. Guns are more likely to cause the death of innocents. Towns. There were 32 criminal homicides for every killing of a felon. 13 states reported 0 justifiable homicides between 2007 and 2011. Only 0.8% of victims used or threatened to use a gun in self-defense. 4. President Obama's recent executive order kills uniqueness or decides it's a question of perception. The right wing has taken this announcement as a war on all guns, empirically confirmed by the NRA's absence at the January town hall meeting on the issue, and the GOP's candidates lauding of the bill as the war on Second Amendment, Letterman and Brecken. The NRA saw no reason to participate in a public relations spectacle. The Democratic candidates back Obama and the Republicans unanimously voiced opposition. This takes out illegal markets and more free access to guns and increased tax means more incentive to engage in the illegal market. After some triggered link takes out economists says because gun markets hurt less people now will buy because it's harder. Takes out court clubs more likely to argue in court because GOP and NRA are already frustrated and want to repeal the executive order. And takes out the Civil War decide because South proceeds to attack on freedoms they already want to go.
Okay, so let's start on this Letterman and freaking evidence. It's from January.
Yeah, it talks about when Obama passed an executive order in relation to universal background checks.
Okay, so how is that still relevant to politics? I said it's been 3 months.
Yeah, my argument was that already pissed people off.
Okay, yeah, so it pissed them off 3 months ago. If I read uniqueness from this weekend, doesn't that indicate that they've gotten over it?
We can weigh.
Okay, that's fine. What's the warrant in the Karnofsky evidence about previous life experiences?
Karnofsky just says that its prior life experience means we should disregard enormous impacts because for a long time, people have been reading, for example, scenarios in debate that say X is going to lead to X, which leads to X, which leads to nuclear war, and it's never happened. So through life experience, we can probably assume that
because it's never happened, it's not going to happen.
Not that it's never going to happen, but it's significantly more likely that small impacts will happen, which means that they should come first.
Why is it more likely that small impacts will happen? If I say me dropping my pen triggers the small impact of someone on the street dying, that doesn't seem likely.
I wouldn't say that dropping a pen and then someone dying would be a small impact relative to the action taken.
So it's relative to the action taken?
Yeah, I would say so.
How do you determine whether or not something's relative to the action taken?
Well, the Karnofsky evidence says that we do it through prior life experience. For example, I probably know that if you drop your pen, it's not going to kill someone. That seems a little bit ridiculous.
Okay. Have we ever passed a handgun ban before?
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Your Rescher evidence says very low probabilities or zero probabilities.
Yeah.
Why is that the case?
I think that's pretty clear. It explains that that's the only way to solve action paralysis because...
What is a very low probability?
Very, very low. I do not quantify in the app, but
so you have to win that a disad is do you already have to reduce a disad to basically presumption for this to be triggered?
No.
Or can you just say
My argument is that it's a weighing argument, right? The argument is that if something is unlikely to happen and hasn't happened in the past, and empirically there's a very small chance of probability of it happen, which we can weigh through util debate, then that means that we should weigh small impacts with high probability first. It's just a probability first argument.
Okay, that's fine. Your rule util arguments, you say that okay, so you say we both defend a rule and weigh the values of our respective rules. What's the rule in the AF?
That we should pass a handgun ban because it stops suicide.
How is that a rule, normatively speaking?
The rule, normatively speaking, would be that, that unthought out suicide is bad.
Okay. You said your framework prefers high probability impacts. Where's the normative warrant for that?
The argument underneath. Wait, what do you mean? It's
you say that high probability impacts are more likely to happen, which seems like probability weighing under act util.
Would you like me to keep going?
Is it 4 or 5?
5.
Yeah.
Okay. The argument is that under rule util, something does not justify the rule being bad if there is a very low probability of it happening, because that means that it only happens for example, 1 in 100 times, which means that it is not sufficient to outweigh the rule.
Okay.
That's what the analysis under the standard says. It's just it's the analytics. And then you'll flash the answer when you're ready.
Yeah. You say an infinite series of actions must be fiated at the extension of any length. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's talking about disads with long scenarios. So you fiat that the first scenario will happen, then we fiat that the second scenario will happen when the first scenario will happen, and so on, which is incoherent. Because we
By
have to
fiat, do you just mean like say that this will happen, or is it like?
well, in the debate round, like a debate sense of fiat.
Okay. G19. TOC R1 and 2. Or something like that. 3 off case.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
There's I am not seeing you. Wait, just kidding.
Just click date one.
It was at the very bottom. I found it. Three off case, right?
Yeah. Cool. Everybody ready?
Yep.
Counterplan tax. 50 states of America and the United States territories will prohibit the ownership of private handguns by implementing a reimbursement policy to collect handguns currently in circulation. Gun policies should be passed through states passing federal policies inefficient and unenforceable. Collect 86. And therefore, new and deserving recommended federal ban on handguns is way above rating state legislatures are separate and reject this federal controls of satisfactory because they have very limited federal law enforcement apparatus and rare crime. The FBI regards this as one of those investigative rather than law enforcement. Nothing at the federal level. Council corresponds to police. Local police have been reluctant to devote their resources to federal laws. Next off is federalism. Decide gun control legislation's feature of federalism should be granted to the states of Shade 14. Because Americans are divided nationwide, gun restriction-based concern, the authority to regulate guns should be the state safe harbor prevention statutes held to preserve the integrity of state approaches gun policy, uphold the settlement and indictment of federalism. These statutes are not merely consistent with decentralization, rather a crucial form of it. Federalism is vital to a clear division of labor between state and federal governments, key to maximizing U.S. leadership. Goal 7. National government sustainable coping with global responsibilities cannot keep expanding domestic policy agenda and habit of attempting middle of everything our government suffers inattentive to state destruction is not a cause of catastrophes. December 11th, Iraq. It may render tragedies hard to prevent. Low U.S. leadership causes nuclear war. That's 13. As U.S. power proceeds, Iraq can become aggressive, propelling spread of nuclear weapons. There could be coup pressure on Israel, leading to preemptive strikes with risk of major war. Central Asia remains a culture of extremism. America's objective is to discourage Chinese stabilization and prevent North Korean Armageddon through miscalculated American countermeasures. China may become aggressive, maintaining full capabilities, including large-scale land operations with an important deterrent menace. Central Asia, Pacific move toward balance of power system. Catastrophic conflict can happen. If balance collapses, balance will be dangerously unstable. Third office elections. Hillary should win. There's an opening for Trump. Jackson 413. Estimates give Hillary the advantage. Trump would lose according to extensive analysis. Race still for grabs 20% are undecided. Elements to surveys and multi-level regression post-stratification. MRP inquiries responded states there's no little person vote choice. Nothing is certain. Many are undecided. Trump or Clinton, neither candidate reaches majority. Handgun ban major Republican GOP opposition. Sure 15. Politicians avoid pros and handgun bans. Politicians low to advocate government take their guns away. The current Congress will even pass expansion background checks. Handgun bans also run afoul of the Supreme Court as currently constituted. Gun control is a major issue of the 2016 election. Unpopularity give pin to Democrats with GOP victory. Past elections proof Taney 15. Strict gun laws a controversial issue. Passing anti-gun measures to help lead Democrats over rolling losses. New focus and interest in political calculus. How many senators of the American support for gun rights is growing. Trump causes great power. War kills everyone. Christoph 16. Is there anything scarier than Trump in a crisis with his finger in the nuclear? Trump is a danger to security of the president. He would make America less safe. Trump would unleash ISIS. America would start a trade war. Real war. Trump is called for more troops in Iraq, while North Korea poorly informed, impatient, precarious leader causes devastation. Trump weakens America's soft power. America's next commander in chief may be a dangerous one. Trump is unpredictable. Seems plausible he was starting wars. Trump would make all the problems we face dramatically worse. And also takes out the GOP president, overturns gun control. Gun lobbies. Press TV 123. Gun owners of America's rallying gun groups In opposition of gun limits, as Republican candidate presidential office will vindicate the Obama's actions have elected Cruz, promise to erase Obama's gun control legacy. Extinction comes prior. Functions as either a separate framework or a rule under Rule U2. 1. Moral uncertainty makes extinction the biggest harm possible. 12. Moral uncertainty suggests a way of looking at risk we should recognize great value in preserving our ability to recognize value, thus to prevent any existential catastrophe. 2. I weigh reversibility. Life can always get better or worse. Extinction can't go against any disad turns case because everyone dying makes it impossible to make improvements or worse. Disad is terminal defense because lack of probability people functionally rolls back the app you vote negative presumption. 3. A world that isn't worth anything if nobody exists to live in it, so even if the app is good, causes everyone to die, that goodness is meaningless, you vote negative presumption. 4. Extinction outweighs all impacts as a fraction of infinity, still infinity. Tertiary policy making warrants in the framework. Shall 82. The mere risk of extinction is significance greater than any other risk. You have to take that significance into account of represents an abyss, which purpose will return the risk may be fractional. Stake is infinite, fraction of infinity is still infinity. We have no right to gamble because if we lose, game over. Also use modesty, which means extinction comes first. It is most consistent with durable decision making. Overing abstain 14. Ethical honesty seems to be consistent with decision making. Supposed to citing whether to drink coffee after agreed point 2. The coffee is mixed with poison and safe to act on the high screen. Cell drink seems like a bad call. Coffee is the worst significant risk. We should think similar to normative theory. Some constitutional violation might be permissible to protect from a terrorist attack, even if we care less about util. Case. Rule util devolves to act util. 1. You need to use act util to determine what rules are good for the first place. So there's no grounding for what you say in a world where my impacts don't matter. 2. There's no clear warning about why rules util would exclude my impacts. You could just say the best rule to follow is to prevent Trump from being president, maintaining federalism, minimizing existential risks. 3. Waller uniquely justifies act util. You multiple rules you can inevitably conflict with one another, and so we should look to each individual action to ground which rules are better. You're warned about probability. There's no reason why we wouldn't actually do homework in that scenario. If doing your homework actually killed everyone on Earth, you wouldn't do it because that's really, really bad. And far worse than the education you get for it. Further, you've not warranted why any of my scenarios are uniquely unlikely or why small impact scenarios are uniquely likely. For example, just because if I were to take an action like driving my car, there's some probability that and that does not necessarily mean that someone in Nebraska will die. Even though that is a small probability impact, it doesn't automatically become likely just because it's like not a big impact. Also, you've not indicted any of the specificity of my scenarios, so you should prefer that. Contention. We solve the case that the state's counterclaim. Collect 86 evidence indicates we lead to higher compliancy, which controls the internally to all your evidence. All of your arguments are predicated upon the fact that people actually don't have handguns in the world of the app. Our argument is that is not better in a world where the states enforce the app. So we solve this. So we solve the advantage better, even if you access this, and even if they win systemic impacts prior, or now go to the systemic framing in the interview. Even if they win systemic impacts prior, it doesn't exclude anything because this has so-called systemic harms through wars. They just outweigh in magnitude because those wars are massive. A couple overviews of this. First is you have not indicted any specificity of my scenario. You functionally just read very, very generic impact defense, which means you should prefer all of my scenarios. I've read experts on the series who think these situations are actually going to happen. You do not get to merely assert that they will not. Further, you do not get to assert that yours are likely just because they are small, low probability impacts. You need to indicate the specificity of my warrants. Next, extinction is unique. Even if you think there's a 1 in 75 million chance of our dishead, you should vote neg poser 4. Even or insufficient reason to account small probabilities of great losses based for estimating value to life reaction may not generalize one with loss to be extinction. The probability of a coalition will be 1 in 6 billion, only 1 in 7 million a year. The entire human race will be wiped out. We may think something must be done, and the risk cannot be on with a standard cost benefit analysis would apply. And extinctionists in particular are underestimated. Their critique of predictions is backwards. Kowski 6. If existential risk, we allow more people doing something about it. People may be oversimplifically are called any past extinction events may overestimate. The vast may be contaminated movies or end up being saved. The unpleasant prospect of human extinction may spur them to seek arguments. Humanity will not go extinct. People are trying to appear poised. If you want to know why others are responding before you, you may have answered your own question. Now in the specific warrants on the rest of your evidence. First, you need to prove that they're actually zero. You do not merely get to assert that they are low probability. Further, this flies in the nexus denies basic logic. Just because something is low probability does not mean it's automatically zero. Those numbers are not the same. You should use standard impact calc. Next, you say the world is complex and multiple internal link chains. Neither warrants. That's not internally warranted why each internal link chain would do this. Just assumes they're low probability, which you have not proved, which you need to prove on a different page. Second, our predictions are good. That's the Kowski evidence. Also, all my authors are experts in their field, making reasonable and balanced claims. Trump would actually be horrible, and federalism is actually a good thing, which means this is necessary. Next, in the Kowski evidence, this argument assumes a fallacy. Just because something hasn't happened in the past doesn't mean it hasn't happened in the future. Also, it doesn't apply to this. It doesn't apply to the situation. We've never passed a handgun in the past, and Trump has never been possibly elected in the past. We've never secured federalism to the extent we have in the past. So this does not apply. Just because extinction hasn't happened in the past doesn't mean it'll happen in the future. That is, if anything, a reason to vote negative. That is a reason to prefer the negative arguments. That's our Kowski evidence indicates because extinction hasn't happened in the past, we're more likely to underestimate. Next, on the last piece of evidence, it says the XO triggers a link on the politics disset or triggers a link on dissets. This is a thumper from 3 months ago. You can't read it all my unique evidence specific to the status quo. Also doesn't outweigh the magnitude. It doesn't nearly match the magnitude of the after the federalism argument. Further, it was passed by the federal government, which means we control uniqueness on that dissent. This argument is not defensive. Process.
Alright, so we're good?
Yep.
Status of the counterclaim?
Condition.
Alright. Let's talk about the federalism dissad. What's the link?
So that's the O'Shea 14 evidence, I think. It says that, as per the Constitution, the
This
ability
says
to
the
legislate
authority
guns.
to regulate guns should be the states. That's just a statement. It doesn't
No,
explain
well, then
why.
it says that state
Explain
firearms
what
preemption statutes. They're like state firearms preemption statutes. This relies on precedent. They preserve.
No, you're just reading
like-
from me the card. Like I want the
Yeah,
explanation
these
as
are-
to why that's a
these are
warrant
warrants
for
in the
why
card.
the act decreases federalism.
Oh, okay. So you.
Also, why is this unique? My argument that like you say that your argument on the uniqueness claim on the last part of the underview is that my card is from a few months ago, but the O'Shea evidence is from 2014.
Well, the uniqueness argument applies to politics. In terms of federalism, the XO was passed by Obama, i.e.,
Yeah, so
not
that's-
states.
Yeah, which is an example.
Also,
of,
I outweigh on my argument is also that I outweigh on magnitude substantially because this is like a far larger gun control statute.
Wait, if the link has already like slightly been triggered, why does that mean you outweigh on magnitude? I don't understand.
There's obviously a question of link differential. The XO is not sufficient to trigger the link, but a total handgun ban would be.
Why?
Because it's a far larger institution of gun
Wait,
control
no,
being
this
passed
just
by the
says
federal
gun
government.
control should be up to states. This doesn't say
Exactly.
a handgun ban would specifically be the worst.
Well, the handgun ban is an instance of gun control and a very
yeah, why is it so much of a worse instance of gun control?
because they
than
very
that?
radical stance on gun control. You're literally banning the ownership of every handgun, which is like unconstitutional, as the court has stated, and like
All right,
things like
that's
that
fine.
make it.
Let's talk
very
about
radical
the
policy.
elections, decide.
Okay.
Your argument is just that there's an opening for Trump. The link, wait, where's the link?
Handgun ban,
This
the
just says
sure
that
and
there will
Taney
be
evidence.
GOP opposition. This doesn't explain why,
And the Taney evidence substantiates that claim. It says past
yeah, explain.
elections. Yeah, it cites past elections and says that when those have happened, Democrats have lost seats due to gun control issues.
Yeah, they've
It
lost
also
seats.
says
Does
it's a
it say
major-
that they've ever lost an election because of it?
Well, those were midterms, so they lost a lot of elections because of it. There wasn't a presidential
yeah,
election
I'm
that
talking
year.
about the presidential election.
Well, we haven't passed a gun ban in a presidential election.
Okay, so also let's talk about why would uniquely a handgun ban affect Clinton if it's passed by Obama?
I can read evidence that Clinton is signed to Obama. They're
Wait,
also the
where?
same party.
I definitely don't see that.
I can read that. I haven't.
You said you can. Okay.
Yeah, the Taney evidence also substantiates that people are organized as Democrats. So just because certain Democrats didn't endorse the bill, Democrats as a party lost seats. The sure evidence would also indicate that it would cause major backlash against the party.
Okay.
So it would affect Clinton.
Alright, that's fine. You said it's 5 minutes prep, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. McConway in 357. The order is going to be on the app. Then it's going to be on the two disads, starting on politics. Then counterpoint.
So F, politics, federalism, states. Read new stuff.
Yeah. It's saved as TOC R1 1AR.
Alright.
Alright. Is everyone good?
Yep.
Alright. Extend breaks and topic requirement means AI control causality is made because breaks and topic specifically say people commit impulsive suicide because they have immediate access to handguns because it's easy, always studies about correlations. Then, B means suicide impacts them first because they need to handgun substitution effects don't matter because people don't use long guns to commit suicide. Also, extend car conjuncts because handguns uniquely are used in impulsive suicide because of ease of access. Another reason I weigh on causality debate because there's more popular than other polls or study comparisons to reason studies comprehensive for 25-year span, so I also outweigh on time frame. Then extend the Engelmeyer 1 and 2 evidence of my studies outweigh because they account for risk analysis inside the 16 most comprehensive studies on handgun suicide. This is going to be important in the weighing debate because he just says that I can't just claim that something is a low risk, is a low impact, high probability, but my argument is that the F has already proven that there is a high probability. He doesn't contest a single piece of evidence in the 1AC, which is a big mistake for him, means that it is going to be really easy to err off on the weighing debate. Then, on the bottom of the F on the weighing debate, you read the Posner and Udowski cards with one. These do not respond to the specific warrants in the arguments that I am reading. My arguments are weighing arguments, even if you are conceding that act util and extinction is important. I will concede to act util. That's fine. So my weighing arguments are still weighing arguments underneath act util. They're not specific to rule util. That's a problem that you make in the responses on the weighing debate. So extend the Rasher analysis specifically says that there is going to your only argument is that you have to prove that there is 0% of chance of something happening, not just assume that it is. But my argument is that when something has a really long link chain, then we inevitably lead to policy paralysis if we don't take some form of action, and there's always going to be a risk of extinction on both sides of one policy action, meaning that taking it or not taking it could potentially lead to extinction, which means that you're always going to prefer short link chains. That's a reason, an independent reason, to prefer the app to the disad scenarios, which means that it always comes first. He doesn't respond to the internal warrant and the Rasher evidence. It's a big mistake then. The only other argument you make is that it is good to have predictions, but my argument is that these predictions are useless if we can't take any form of action towards them. So even if you're right and that we should be able to predict things like extinction and we should care about extinction, it doesn't matter if we can't act on it, which is another reason that the app always comes first. So, go to the politics decide. One turn first in controversial sites is key to Obama's agenda. Fire drive with a lane turn, Dickerson 15. The challenge for Obama's second term is how to be greater than the environment seeks passing can only continue his legacy if he destroys the European. He must go through the third. Obama may have approached the task by finding Republicans to deal with this. The only way he's abandoned now. Republicans are dead set on opposing him. Fights over controversial issues cause a rift in the party to leave in a disarray. This turns the politics society arguments talk about why it is bad for Clinton if Obama passes some form of policy that is not liked by the Republicans and it's going to lead to the GOP taking over the election. My argument is that won't happen. Also means you should be very suspicious of his link chain because one, I'm reading it is a link turn. It also too means I have defense and link. Also means that his extinction impacts are very unlikely because that is the second part of the interview. Talks about how things that have multiple points to a link chain means that they are significantly less likely to happen because we have to be at each step in the link chain. He doesn't make a response to this argument other than he says that it's nonsensical and doesn't have a warrant. Then go to the 50 states countdown first, actually. Gun bans 6 states are virtually impossible. States lack infrastructure. Ban it, go 6. Judge might decide the gun removal is not important, refuse to impose the ban. How many states lack bureaucratic and physical infrastructure to actually remove the guns? Many and guns states do not have gun repositories, neither extra laws, enforcement officers to confiscate weapons, and lack of uniform regulation means gun control. And one state might undercut gun control, another state means you fuel the illegal market and make solvency impossible. Morgan. New York and New Jersey have some of the strictest gun control laws in the country, yet the states still continue to struggle with gun-related crime. More than 2/3 of gun crimes in the states are traced back to purchases as far away from Florida where the gun laws are more lax. The patchwork of gun laws have created a gray market, the source being states with gun laws that can cause profitable for private sellers regardless of that firearms destination. A low-quality handgun that sells for $100 in the Atlanta store might sell for $500 to $600 in New York City. Only federal actions also state action is never unified, so it's another reason the kind of thing that happen means sets a minimum threshold for what a gun ban would necessitate, meaning uniform cooperation among states with the affirms to increase provisions they can do. This means permutation in the USFG should be in accordance with the 50 states of the U.S. to pass a handgun ban. Self because coordination ensures that laws complement one each other and make the specificity of particular locale. Anyway, getting takes out the federalism decide you can extend the Letterberg and Fracking evidence that specifically talks about an exit that has already pushed the brink of the federalism decide. We've already been passing gun control laws and we haven't lost enough federalism. You don't explain what the brink is, and the federalism decide doesn't matter because the state counterclaim wouldn't solve anyway. In cross-play debate.
I had 237.
219.
Oh,
I didn't type it.
wasn't the ballpark.
Close enough.
What's the money say?
So your like winners win evidence says forcing controversial fights key to Obama's agenda. The dissent has nothing to do with the agenda. How does it apply?
Yeah, the dissent talks about how Obama's agenda is key to Clinton's presidency, which would imply that if Obama becomes more popular, and the evidence specifically talks about destroying the GOP, which would mean that it weakens the GOP so that Trump cannot become president.
All right. States. Federalism, elections with an overview on elections. There's new cards, by the way.
Yeah, what do you flash?
2 in our winners win, or winners lose.
Okay.
States, federalism, overview on elections, case.
Give me 1 sec.
Yes.
What's it say, Joes?
2 in our winners lose. Just click date modified. Everyone ready?
Yep.
Concede the permutation, just a test of competition, not going for the counterplan, takes out all the perm shields, the link arguments, and all the reasons why all the solvency opposites against the counterplan. We don't need to solve the case because we will win extinction comes prior. We will win an extinction scenario. Next on the federalism dissent. There's no offense for that. There's no offense for them in this page. There's nothing to go for. I'll concede that the counterplan would hypothetically shield the link in a world where they could go for both, but they can't. Now the elections is set. We will. There are a lot of conceded arguments on this page, including unique normative warrants as to why extinction comes prior than all the arguments in the abstract. Take out the probability frame because they function as an entirely different framework. There are also a lot of conceded arguments in the elections that make this debate very simple for you. First is the Jackson evidence. That is our uniqueness evidence, which is uncontested and indicates that Clinton will win now. But there is an opening for Trump because 20% of the electorate is currently undecided, which means they can swing either way. This takes out the link term because you do not have uniqueness because you do. because you do not have uniqueness for where Clinton will win now, so passing policy doesn't make it more likely for her to win, because doing nothing would make it more likely for her to win. So you do not have any unique offense on this page, which takes out your link turn, even if you win nothing else. Next is the sure and Taney evidence, which is the app link scenario. Obviously, negative link because it's specific to these scenarios, and the app the sure evidence indicates what cause major GOP backlash, and the Taney evidence cites historical examples that indicate that has caused the Democrats' elections to the GOP in the past, like the assault weapons ban in the 90s caused massive seats in the midterms evidence. The only argument against this is winners win. First, it doesn't apply. It's about Obama's agenda, which it answered agenda politics. It said not election because his agenda does not win. She has to answer evidence that say Clinton is tied, Obama is tied to Clinton, but that war was not made in the last speech. She should not let her go for it. Not let her go for it in the 2 AR. Enter ways, winners lose. If unpopular policies were also to trigger the link from Obama's approval ratings would be sky high by now. Universal healthcare proves. Next, prefer specific evidence. By link evidence in the context of the plan in the election says it would guarantee Trump will win. Winners win evidence does not account for the specific scenario. Further, her evidence is old. It's not in the context of the election. It's from 2015. It's from 2015, whereas my uniqueness evidence is much better. It means they cannot go for try or die in this scenario. Next, even if winners actually win, Obama thinks full cap is finance, so he'll back off. Kuttner 9. Obama's on for backtrack. There are 2 ways of achieving consensus. One is to split the difference. The other is to use leadership. Obama defaults to accommodation. Winners actually lose. Full cap goes away. It's the only way it makes sense. Ryan 9. Political capital is a fast diminishing extent. Literally ever renewable political leaders who are promised a lot but do not know how to. I'm having quick capitals, so it's one to click the American police account, want to take all system, getting anything done politically, will encourage groups to negotiate the game of strong, serious short training. No one takes orders. Also, this has Obama. Obama doesn't win Obama fights with Obama doesn't win these fights uniquely proven by like things like Garland and CJR reform. They don't actually cause his poll cap to increase. That was above. Next, extend the Christoph evidence indicates Trump causes war with the world, which is completely conceded, which means it outweighs all your unique probability framing. You have not indicted the internal links of my scenario. The only thing you have indicted is one internal link, which I think I'm thoroughly ahead on, which means you cannot say that the dis had a low probability when I've won a very high probability. Next, you've conceded a rollback argument. See press TV 123 argument should be seen as terminal case defense because as soon as the next president gets elected, there's no gun control anymore, which means all the solvency that the case accesses goes away, which means we do not need to solve the case because the app doesn't solve the case for longer than 3 months, which means you do not outweigh on any probability. This should be seen as very, very, very good impact defense. Next is the extinction first probability framing. There are a lot of conceded arguments here that function independent of your probability weighing. First is the Boston evidence, which functions as a normative warrant for why extinction comes first. It says that moral uncertainty makes extinction the biggest harm, which means none of your probability weighing matters. It's like using consequentialism weighing under a deontological framework, because this argues that an entirely different ethical thing, a set of ethics is necessary that is not act utilitarianism. My argument in the last speech is that rule utilitarianism involves act utilitarianism, but my framework is distinct from that. Next, you conceded the third argument, which says a world where everybody is dead is inherently meaningless because there's nobody to experience the goodness of that world, even if that goodness exists, which again operates independent of all your probability framing because it acts as a unique normative warrant, which means even if she wins 100% of the Resher analysis, that does not matter because I'm the only one with an extinction scenario which functions independent of the case. It's like it is a totally different framework. But anyways, go to the case probability framing stuff. They only extend the Resher evidence. They only extend the Resher evidence. So I'm gonna extend that force before going for the negative offense. They say long link chains lead to paralysis. That is just an assertion. That is not justified anywhere in the Resher analysis. It was highlighted down so that warrant was not included. Next. That is answered by the argument in the last page. Is you need to prove that each internal link in the chain is inherently unlikely, which you have not done because you've conceded everything except for winners lose, which I'm thoroughly ahead on because it's definitively true because that is the strongest internal link in the entire chain. Second, you concede that this is not as logic because we would weigh every option like probability in any other decision, so we should not blatantly ignore it any further. Further, there's no impact to paralysis. It's empirically disproven because you will be able to make a decision at the end of the debate. Also, that one was not in the one you see. Now for the negative offense. Lots of conceded arguments why extinction comes first, even under an act utilitarian framework. First is the specificity argument. They have functionally just read very, very generic impact defense, which should be preferred to my arguments. Next is the poster that is independently conceded. Next is the poster 4 argument, which is conceded in the last speech, indicates that even if there is a 1 in 75 million chance, we should think differently because extinction is just fundamentally different. Having every single person on Earth die is an event that we cannot wrap our heads around, which means it is necessarily worse than everything else that can happen. Lastly is the TOC evidence, which is answered by saying that we cannot act on the predictions that we make, but that misunderstands the argument. My argument is that extinction predictions are uniquely underestimated, actually far more likely than is said, which takes out the Resher evidence. You say we can't act on it. That argument is not warranted because we can't act on it. We just don't do the F. Now on the AC contention. They don't get to weigh the contention. They are conflating strength of link with probability. My scenario is still uniquely probable because it has also been conceded. Next, even though I don't have a counterpoint to solve the case, you've conceded the rollback argument, which means when a GOP president gets elected, because winners lose, then that rolls back the F. Also on the disad, I'm so far ahead on uniqueness that you should not take any risk of this not happening. which outweighs. Also protect the 2 and R. I don't get a 3 and R to do any weighing, so you shouldn't let them make any arguments that were not in the last speech.
I have 1 or 3 left. Alright, cool. The order is going to be a quick overview on the weighing debate, then on the dissad, well, the aft and the dissad. I'll signpost.
Okay.
Is everyone good?
Yep.
Alright, cool. Extend the pressure analysis of long link chains leads to policy paralysis because we can never determine which link chain is actually going to happen. Also means that they have when they have high probability. He's claiming that he has a high probability of something happening, but my argument is that 1, I have contested the link story of the 1, and C, also he concedes, actually go to the dissad. Extend the argument that he doesn't ever explain why specifically this is enough to trigger the link. He doesn't explain why this will trigger the link, but the executive order that is already passed will not. He does not explain why 1 is particularly more efficient than the other. His evidence he would have gotten up and said that his evidence is specifically more specific on the issue, and then also that it is very good on the issue, but his evidence all just talks about gun control, just talks about why uniquely a handgun ban is enough to trigger the link. When the XO about universal background checks was not, he does not, that is at least a reason to doubt the link scenario, even if you don't think it is very good, it is still a reason that his link scenario is unlikely. Also in the political capital arguments, when you just make the argument that, winners lose, but this is not, the argument is not a winners win claim. The argument that I read is specifically talking about why when Obama has more political, that Obama, when he has passes controversial policies, he overcomes the GOP, which causes the GOP to disband and become in disarray, which makes it less likely for them to win the election. It is not a winners win argument, it is an argument that he is taking out the GOP. That directly answers your argument because it talks about why your arguments talk about why, like the Kristoff and the Jackson evidence talk about why Trump right now has the ability to win because there is disarray in the Democratic Party because of Obama's actions. My argument is that this is taken out. That even if you don't buy the link turn, there is at least a link turn and some reason to be suspicious of the link of the NC when the entire offense of the AC is conceded. It should be very easy to make that decision. Then, the only other argument that he's going for is the rollback argument, but I made the argument in the 1AR that the rollback is outweighed by the 100% conceded AC. That means that there's a much higher probability and also 100% strength of link and conceded solvency that the AC is going to solve, whereas he's making a rollback claim that is at least contested and also outweighed. Also, you can cosplay the Russia analysis that it relies on him winning the long link chain that ends up with Trump becoming in office and Clinton not becoming in office, which you have reason to be suspicious of, which he never responds to the Russia analysis properly. Which means that there is at least reasons to doubt that the rollback will happen, which is a reason that the AF happens. So, round breaks down like this. All of the weighing that he's conceding, he frames things as extinction first. My argument is that even if extinction comes first, you should prefer low probability because we could have extinction arguments on both sides, and we need to have high probability, low magnitude impacts in order to understand and avoid policy paralysis. You make the argument that policy paralysis won't happen, but one, it already happens in the real world. There's lots of instances in which there's political gridlock and then people do not make past policies, and also you can also extend the argument that you don't respond to. That is, even if it is good to talk about extinction, and extinction is more accurate and likely than we think it is, it does us no good if we don't have the ability to pass a policy. So, round breaks down like this. You're significantly behind on the weighing debate. You claim that moral extinction should be something that comes first, but my argument is that we can never solve for it unless we understand the link chain behind it, and also the link chain behind it gives us large reasons to doubt you, so you affirm.
Can I see the evidence that was read in the 1AR?
Yes. This is just the entire 1 AR doc. You did with that.
Yeah.
If you wanted to see the Russia analysis, yeah.
Hey, we're almost done. We're just gonna talk about
Sorry.
it. No problem. Okay, I vote neg on the dissent. I think he is winning the framework because of the Bostrom and the moral argument that the world would be meaningless, there would be no goodness for humans to experience if humans were dead. So, and the 2 and R framing is like, well, this is an entirely different framework than the act util or rule util arguments that were on the half, so I have to care about extinction first. I don't know really how to take the whole like Rescher debate unless I see it as applying to the framework debate and like setting up a like generic act util framework for you. So I don't see how it could operate under the framework. The reason I don't think that Rescher takes out Bostrom is I think the 2 and R says like one, this is a normative warrant which is distinct from what Rescher's talking about, which is just kind of a pragmatic argument about how, and this I think you need to distinguish more clearly in the 2 and R between like what Rescher's doing and what Bostrom's doing. But at least he says this is a normative argument. Rescher's doing something different, which would be maybe something like finding a pragmatic way to do policy making or something like that. I also think that there's a lot of defense in the 2 and R on Rescher, which says that you have to show my specific scenario is unlikely, that you have to prove it applies to this dissent. And I don't think that you end up doing it in this debate. The third thing before I get to that is the Yudkowsky evidence that predictions are underestimated now, which I think interacts with Rescher pretty well. So either way, there's a lot of defense on the Rescher debate, but the Bostrom and like moral arguments are completely conceded. So I think the neg is winning framework. Then I look at the dissent proper. I don't think that. I think you have to answer the evidence that's read in the 2 and R ultimately. I think it does answer your cards. You're just so in particular the card that's tagged Obama will back off if he thinks PC is finite seems to answer Dickinson because Obama will not go for the throat and try to destroy the GOP as a result of the AF. He empirically backs off, and there's this analytic argument that says that Obama doesn't win these fights. Yeah, we're gonna be done in like a minute.
But did you submit your ballot yet?
Yeah. Okay. So he gives the example of like Garland and CJR reform that he would pass these things if his PC increased so much from like EXO or whatever else he was doing. So I do think even if the function of your argument is not to be like a typical winner's win argument about PC, even if what you're trying to go for is this impact, I think to destroy the GOP, I think that these arguments are relevant because this card is reliant on you winning that he will continue to pass policies or at least do concrete things to stop the GOP. I thought that was a clever use of that card because I was kind of skeptical when you read it in the 1AR because it is traditionally a card that people will read against agenda politics TAs. But I thought it made sense. I just don't think that the card is good enough to win that empirical claim that the GOP will lose the election. So it's kind of normative. It's like Obama should go for the throat, but I don't think it means like after post the AF he will do that in a good way. The last thing I'll say is I think the neg links are way more specific. I think you have to win an argument about a handgun ban, or at least like give examples of. I mean, it would be easy enough to do, like give an example after he passed this executive order, what he did then that indicates he will go for the throat and try to destroy the GOP. That's all that, and that also answers some of the Rescher stuff because I end up thinking the dissent does have very high probability because I think he is winning a ton of stuff on the link level. And then the last thing is that you still need to win a uniqueness argument to get offense here, which is the top of the 2NR. He says that.
Yeah, I just ran out of time on that.
Yeah. So Hillary will win in both worlds. Doesn't do you any favors. You have to win that Trump will win now. Okay.